Welcome to this episode of A Facilitator's Journey. Today I talk with Kat Hase all about niching. It's often a question I get asked: how do I know what I'm going to do? How do I know to niche? How do I know what to niche? So Kat and I have a lovely conversation talking about how she found her niche, the process she went through over many years. We want to be really clear about that. This doesn't happen in a one-off session. We talk about the power and the value of niching. We talk about some of the niching myths. And we just basically have a really lovely conversation. So this is your invitation to get a cup of tea, pull up a chair, take a seat on the pink seat if you wish to, and tune in your ears. Enjoy this episode. Hey, Kat.
Hello.
Good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Welcome to A Facilitator's Journey. Kat, first question I ask everybody is, how do we know one another?
Well, I love telling this story. I took voluntary redundancy. 1 week later, I turned up to an SOF gathering because I thought I should go out and meet people and figure out what the hell was going on in the world. And I met you there. And that was 6.5 years ago, 2017. So yeah, 6.5 years ago. And I always say that I walked into that unemployed and left self-employed.
Hurrah! And help people who are listening or watching this. What do you do? How do you describe yourself?
So I call myself a creativity coach, and I work with facilitators to help them design awesome training. So using elements of play, fun, games to add engagement into workshops that get people moving, thinking, and enjoying themselves, because I think if you're enjoying yourself, you'll learn more and do more with it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So today our topic is quite niche, and it's all about niching, which is something we decided would be really interesting to discuss, because it's often a conversation I know both you and I have been part of, where people are like, should I niche? How do you niche? How do you know what to niche into? And both of us have niched in our respective fields. So let's start broad, and then we'll go narrow. A couple of questions, like what have you learned in the first six and a bit years of running your business? What are some of your big learnings?
So much. I think one big learning is develop a good network. Absolutely. Both for the support that you're going to need as like a solo business owner or freelance facilitator, but also for referrals and working together as well. So it kind of does both sides. You become support network, but also co-workers. So I think that would be one. I remember at that first session I came to with you, someone saying, and this is still a big piece of advice I give to other people, learn to ride the peaks and troughs. And that's not just the financial ones. That's the energy, the enthusiasm, the like, I'm on it versus the should I just give up? Like all of that, even 6 years in, is still wavy.
It's still wavy. Do you know what? But I think that's a really good description, because I'm 16, 17 years in, and it's still wavy. Like there are times in the year or times in a period where it all feels good, it flows, there's proposals out, clients saying yes. And then there's other times it's the dip and the trough, whether that's, as you just said, working with clients, or your mental attitude, how you're feeling, the emotions. It happens all the time.
Yeah, and I think something that a lot of us are still learning is to enjoy some of those down times, to be able to rest and recover. But it's very easy just to go into worry instead. So I think that's an ongoing learning to kind of go alongside that. It's like, how do you touch the beach?
Yeah,
so to speak.
we say in the team, trust the void.
Yeah.
And how do you trust the void? Um, so how did you know what you wanted to do when you left the corporate world?
There's two parts to that question. One is there was some stuff I really enjoyed doing that I knew I wanted to do, and there was some stuff I really didn't like doing that I knew I never wanted to do again.
Nice.
So it was being able to differentiate so that I didn't just do my job somewhere else, but that actually I got to pick the bits I liked and
Yeah.
said no to things I didn't want to do.
And
Which
how
is easier
did
said than
you?
done.
Yeah, I was going to say, and how did you sieve out that list?
So I knew I didn't love facilitating. There are some amazing people out there who facilitate, and they're all bubbly and love being in the room. I can do it, but I don't love it. I love the designing what happens in the room bit. So I knew that was kind of one thing, but sometimes the line blurs a little bit sometimes on that one. I knew that I never wanted to touch another competency framework. And I've been offered work to do those over the years and said, no, thank you. So I think sometimes it is like standing firm in the knowing.
Yeah.
And I think with some of the other stuff, sometimes I just have to test it again and check that I definitely still
Fair
don't
enough.
like it.
Do you have it written down anywhere, Kat?
No, it's all in my head.
Okay. How helpful has it been for you to define what you enjoy doing and what you no longer want to touch?
It makes saying yes and no to things easier, I would say. And looking for work as well, because it means I'm not looking at the stuff that I don't want to see.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Nice. I like that. So it's almost you started to niche before you niched, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
you were starting to get
I'd
clear as you
narrowed
left.
it down.
Yeah.
I'd already
Okay.
narrowed it, but I hadn't niched
Okay.
it, I would
Anyone
say.
listening to this right now, Kat and I are waving our hands into like lines going, it's like niche would be a point, whereas narrow is just two hands wide apart. So why did you decide you needed to niche? Let me go there. Why did you decide?
Because I could see other people who were offering services that were so clear. So even if they had 3 different types of service, the thing that they niched in was really obvious and really clear. And I didn't feel like I was at that point. I felt I was a bit wishy-washy, kind of doing more than one thing. And I felt that made it much harder to market what I did because I wasn't just doing one thing. So I really wanted to kind of niche down into here is what I do in a way that's
Brilliant.
really easy to understand.
I agree. Like knowing this is what I stand for. And as you say, we'll talk about the benefits of niching, but one of them being I know what to talk to people about.
Yeah.
So what did you do to find your niche? Tell us some of the things you did.
I went on 2 business retreats, one of them being your mountain perspective. And that's where some things started to become clearer. And also where I met someone who was so clear on what they did. I was like, that's what I need. I need what they've got. And then someone I met on your retreat, I then went on their retreat and kind of went in with here's where I'm at and here's where I want to get to. And that retreat was really structured and helped me shift from where I was to where I wanted to be a bit more. And I think the other thing I did was I talked to people. So I talked earlier about like how important a network is. I think talking about things and trying things out with others really helped, because sometimes it's the people on the other side who see your niche before you do.
Yeah, nice. So the image I've got in my head is of a sieve. So it's like you came to Mountain Perspective with, I need to start thinking about where I want to niche, and you sieved out a few ideas and some things dropped out. And then I'm cool naming it. So Emily Hodge was our now mutual friend as well, who was on that retreat with us. And then she hosted a retreat in France, didn't she? It was beautiful.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you did some more refining, but you went in with sounds like you went in with quite a clear intention to look at this.
Yeah, definitely. I was more, when I came to the Mountain Perspective, I was at a place of, this doesn't feel right. What does it need to be?
Okay.
And then when I went to Emily's retreat, it was more of this is where I'm at, and this is a point I need to get to.
Okay.
So yeah, it was kind of the next step.
Yeah. And when you were with Emily, can you recall any types of conversations or activities you did that started again to get your thinking going, or your feeling, I should say, as well, which is not just thinking?
There's one moment that just flipped it, essentially. So I went to that retreat and I had two offers. So I had my sketchographics offer, which was where I made hand-drawn infographics for people, which was really popular and people really liked it, but it just wasn't hitting the right buttons for me. And I had the designing games and activities for workshops. So I kind of went in with I've got these two things, it feels really messy. We each got given a 15-minute slot to kind of show what we do. So I designed a new activity on the plane on the way over, because every time I get asked to do something, I design something new, because why wouldn't I? Make it hard for myself. And I delivered that activity and people loved it. Even the people who were like, oh God, I hate this kind of thing, by the end were laughing and joking and asked to do it for longer and all that kind of stuff. And as we walked away from that, someone came over to me, Sarah Massey, who is another probably mutual acquaintance. And she said, this is what you need to be doing. Drop the other thing. And I was like, I felt like a weight had been lifted. And it was like, yes, she's right. That's it. And weirdly enough, the activity that I ran there is Communication Top Trumps, which is my top seller. So that started what was to come afterwards as well. So the plane journey was well worth it.
And so I'm hearing sort of deconstructing what you're saying. So there was the intention to really look at this. You gave yourself time and space. So this wasn't just a desk exercise. You took yourself out of your environment.
Yeah.
You went somewhere totally different. In this example, a retreat, which was how long? 3-4 days?
Yeah.
Yeah,
something like
maybe
that.
Longer. But sounds plausible. Emily, if you're listening, let us know. But it gave you time and space. So you actually gave yourself that physical, rather than go, oh, I'll think about it on the fly, or I'll think about it as I'm doing other things. Then there's this piece around, you had the opportunity to talk about it with people. And in this example, where you said you had that moment where it shifted, you were actually doing the thing that you really now are known for. And someone said to you, oh, that really works. And as you said, it almost was like, it sort of just clicked.
Yeah. And it's almost like even if subconsciously maybe I already knew that, having the validation from someone else saying, do this. I obviously needed that at the time.
Yeah, so there's this piece as well for some people, and I'm probably myself included, that external validation is super helpful, because actually you could argue, Kat, you had already done the thinking and you were testing it in the moment, but you just didn't realize you were doing a bit of a test at that point.
Yeah.
And then you got that feedback. What does it give you when you're thinking about niching to have conversations with people? How does that help, do you think?
So I think there's two parts of that. It's like, one is, I remember even at the very start of my business when people said, "What do you do?" Like it was like every conversation refined it and got clearer, both in my head and in the way I said it.
Mm-hmm.
And they ask questions as well. People ask questions that make you think and make you like respond differently.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other side of that is, and again, I remember conversations with Amy Reynolds where she was like, "This is what you do." I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, that is what I do." And it's like because you spend so long just doing your thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to say it's this,
Yeah.
like in a sentence or something really obvious. So
Yeah.
I think there's the saying it out loud to refine it for yourself, but then having other people spot the key points as well.
Yeah. And also notice the language and the words that people are using with you, because
Yeah.
that again is super helpful to then note that down, because that might get woven into, I don't know, some marketing spiel, or you start to use it yourself, because that's what people interpret, people understand, and they can talk about it.
Yeah, and
So
also because a lot of those people I spoke to are both like friends / colleagues, but also clients. So actually, the language is even more important
yeah,
to
that's
me
true.
than what I do.
So are there any other, so as you're sort of looking to discover or work on your niche, is there any other advice that you could give or you were given that you can share with us today?
Yeah, I think there's probably advice I'd give and there's advice I'd ignore.
Okay.
So I think it's about finding the right niche for you. So whether that is the thing you do,
Mm-hmm.
or the industry you work in, or the
Mm-hmm.
people you work with, it doesn't have to be so refined that it's all of those. It's about finding the bit that makes you stand out, and be different, or be easy to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of advice I was given was like, you have to narrow. But I think there's a point where you don't. Like, I don't say I only work with people in this industry, for example. Well, I suppose I do, because I work with facilitators, but I don't only work with facilitators who do management and leadership, for example. Like, I think you have to find the right level of niching that feels like the clarity you and your clients need, but without forcing yourself. And I think that's the other thing. It's really hard. I think you get a lot of pressure put on you to find it and to find it quickly. But it took me like 4 years, didn't it? So I think you have to be aware that you're looking for it, but not put pressure on yourself to find it until it becomes
time is
obvious.
Right.
Yeah.
And Kat, in all honesty, I'd been thinking about SOF, like the sort of the concept of helping other facilitation trainers from 2007, and I didn't bring it to life till 2014. Yeah. So I left corporate world and was a sales trainer. That was where I started. But I was always thinking and talking about the concept of how do I help trainers and facilitators design and deliver great workshops. And I tested it a few times and people were like, nah, not interested. No, don't need that. And so I believed them. Mm. That's the other thing. Don't always believe what people tell you. Yeah, it was 2014 that it started to become crystal, and it work. You have to work on it. And it's even just being aware. I said there was a 9-month gestation period for me of bringing School of Facilitation to life. It genuinely was 9 months. And I was working with a particular coach on lots of things, but that happened to be something that got birthed in the process. So it does take time. I think that's what we're both saying.
Yeah. Don't panic that you need to find it straight away.
And actually, this is another question. Like, once you found your niche, do you stay there? Does it change? Like, is it okay to change? What are your thoughts?
Good question. I think it's fine to stay or go. Like, businesses evolve, you evolve, what you're interested in evolves. So,
Yeah,
but once you know how to find a niche, like, it's probably easier to move to a different niche because,
yeah,
like, you
that's
know
true.
what it looks like.
Just as you're saying that, part of me goes, do you think if you're, say you're in a particular space, let's call it a particular niche, and maybe you're starting to fall out of love with it, maybe it's like noticing what's going on inside, like what are your thoughts, what are your feelings, to like give you cues and indicators. So because you said, you started with the graphic sketches, which I remember really clearly, like what, now you look back, hindsight's an amazing thing, what information were you being given by yourself that this was not the space to play in?
I think there was sometimes when I'd put a proposal out and someone would come back and say yes, I'd be like, oh shit, I've got to do it now.
Apologies if you were one of those people. She did enjoy the job at the time.
I think there was also, I know that I had a couple of projects that had massive scope creep that I didn't know how to deal with at the time, and therefore I became resentful as well. So I think putting those things together and feeling like I should be able to do it quicker than I could was a big sign for me that I guess I never felt good enough in a way. And I didn't want to feel like that.
I think it's really wise words, like noticing your reaction to getting a brief, fulfilling it, like the proposal, and then them going yes. If your brain's starting to go, don't want to do that. That's probably some
and it
really
was good
strong
money
information
as well. Like it wasn't like people weren't paying. For it. But yeah, it's just like all the things together just felt a bit icky. But
yeah,
I didn't want to lose the essence of the fun, playful drawing, which is why I kind of decided, okay, that's my brand. Like I kind of I didn't just drop it all together and never pick up a pen again. I turned it into my brand that came into like the work I did going forwards.
Yeah, the drawing piece.
So it feels better.
Nice. It's like it's more whole. It's still taking like elements that you loved about the previous work of graphics, but it's now incorporating it into something that feels even more aligned with you. One of the conversations we were having before this recording was like, how can it go wrong if you niche? Can it go wrong?
I think if you follow the advice wrong, it can go wrong. So if you go, I remember being in a group and someone sharing that they'd niched, and their niche was 20-year-old women who wanted to get married at Disney. I'm like, that's quite narrow as a niche. I can't imagine that went massively well. So I think there is stopping at the level where it gives you enough coverage and not going so deep that you're like, I only work with 34-year-old women who've got 3 cats and still live at home with their parents. Like, that's not that there's anything wrong with that, but like if you're only kind of focusing on those people, and I think the other thing is if you're ignoring all the other opportunities, and that probably takes us into a myth question.
Go for it.
Just because you've chosen a niche doesn't mean that there aren't other opportunities that will come to you. Because I think that's one of the things that people are really scared of. That, well, if I choose this, I'm saying no to all these other things. But you're not, because actually often people, and I've had it from you as well, like people come to me and say, I know you do this, but would you be interested in doing this? And I'm like, yes, that sounds fascinating. But it's like a project that you would never have thought to add to your list of things because doesn't fit in that kind of easy to talk
Yeah.
about. So I think
That's a good. I was going to say it's quite a
a
good
lot of
point.
people think that if you niche, like you're cutting everything else off, but you're not. But you do get the choice of whether you say yes or no to it.
True, because I think sometimes others can see in you what you can't see in yourself. So I know I approached you and recommended you in on a project whereby we were looking for someone to help do some learning design using a particular e-learning authoring tool. And I remember saying, can we talk about this with you? And you like going, oh, and being a good cat, you were like, let me think about it, because I know you need that time to process. But you came back and went, yeah, that plays to my strengths. Like that's really an interesting opportunity. And you considered it. You didn't just go, oh, I don't do e-learning. That's never been one of my things. Yet I now know it's part of your hidden repertoire that I'm very lucky that I sometimes, as along with Sean, we knock on your door and go, hey, fancy getting involved? And it's great.
Yeah.
It's
and
great.
There's other things, book editing. Like, where the hell did that come from?
Oh yeah, but that was your detail.
But the detail, but also there was an element of designing activities alongside it. So there was like,
that was it.
But I don't advertise like I read your books for you, do I? Like, it's an opportunity that came in because you saw my strengths. So I think, I guess with niching, it's an opportunity to show off what your strengths are. And then other people can say, oh, here's how I would put your strengths together in a slightly different way.
Yeah. Does that then lead us to say, okay, so if we are niching, how do we tell people what we're doing? Like, how do we do that?
I think we need to be really clear for a start. So like the whole intro, like who are you and what do you do? And I think that does change over time as you kind of use different words and hear what your clients say. But being able to say something really clearly about here's what I do and why it's like has an impact. I think there's that. But then also digging into the, like, how do you do it? Like, how can people work with you in different ways to get that overall thing?
Definitely.
And sharing about, not just your business, but yourself as well.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, I know people sometimes go, oh, but marketing or posting on LinkedIn or having a website or using Instagram, choose your platform.
Yeah.
If you don't tell people what you do, someone once said to me, if you don't tell people what you do, you're doing a disservice to them because they won't know how to find you. They won't know how to get value from you. So by not sharing, you're not helping potential people work out some of their problems. So I was like, oh.
Yeah. Which is really hard though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It can be really hard. But yeah, I agree. I think there's a combination of we need to tell people because actually if we tell people, those people can tell other people.
Yeah.
And that comes back again to like that whole like network and having a group of people around you who, when they know your niche, they can refer you because they spot opportunities for you as well.
Definitely. I the way I see networks is like, imagine you're at the center of a circle, Kat, and you'll have like your immediate connections around you and they know what you do, but you need to tell them. Yeah. And then both you and I sell products to people or run events. And therefore, initially, it's people that you know in your immediate circle. Then the circle goes out one more. And then what I found is it was, Kat recommended I came to a pod or I came to a gathering. So then that happened. And then that can last like 2 or 3 years. Let's be really clear, as I noticed. And then all of a sudden, people you have no clue start to knock on your door and you're like, hi, welcome. And then I go, how did you find us? And they'll be like, I saw your LinkedIn, or I saw the podcast, or so and so told me, and I'll be like, so and so, don't know so and so, and then literally we bounce back through time. But you
Yeah.
have to. But the only way that has happened, to your point, is you have to start telling people in your inner circle what it is you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like, your inner circle continues to grow because every time someone comes in from the outside, they're suddenly like in that next level, aren't they? So
Yes.
it's like the whole sphere is growing constantly.
Yeah. How I'm gonna make an assumption, and it's because I put myself in this as well. How did you get over yourself thinking, oh, I don't want to, oh, do I really have to like tell people or market myself? Like, what did you do to help yourself move through that?
All sorts of courses and communities that were about social media creation
Yeah.
and strategies and things like that. So I think there's
Nice.
kind of learning the options and then choosing the bits that worked for me. So again, not just doing what they said. I've taken the best bits for me from all the things I've done and turned that into my approach. And that's changed over the years as well, how I kind of approach and plan my marketing. Both in terms of how I do it, but also the things I talk about. So like you were saying, like do you change niche? I haven't changed niches, but I have maybe refined or changed the language I use.
Yeah.
And trying to do it in a way that feels good. And getting over, I think some of the stuff that people really struggle with is here's what I do and how you can buy it, and here's something else someone said about me that's really lovely, isn't it? Like, they're the hardest things to post for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to get over that is just to do it a little bit.
Yes. And do baby steps.
Yes.
Because actually,
keep doing stuff that's comfortable alongside it.
Yeah. And if I think about how I buy into someone, or if I want to work with them, I do look for testimonials. I do look for reference points about what will the work entail, how does it happen, like who else has worked with you. So I look for those ingredients. So if I don't put those ingredients out there myself, like, I'm probably maybe losing the possibility of working with some people because they want that proof point. That's quite interesting.
And also, I think the other bit that goes hand in hand with that is sharing your knowledge and expertise. So I think that's another barrier is but if I tell people this on social media for free, they don't need my services. Well, actually, if you tell them lots of little bits, they realise how knowledgeable you are and how much better they'd be by working with you.
Yeah.
So I think you need all of those, like, let me tell you some stuff that you're going to find interesting or useful or be able to use. Let me tell you how to work with me, and let me tell you how someone else has worked with me. Like, maybe they're the three
elements. I'm sure they are.
There you go. There's my own framework.
I like that. What has niching given you?
I think it's made me really easy to refer. So I get a lot of people coming to me who said, oh, so-and-so said I should talk to you. Or I've been following you for ages because this person said I should. So for me, I think it's made it much clearer for me to be able to tell people, but it's made it much clearer for other people to be able to tell people. So, you know, when people say I'm looking for a facilitator, like, it's much easier if you can say, what do they niche in? Do they do sales?
Yes.
Do they do team building? Do they do this? Rather than just like, yes, I know loads of facilitators. Which one is it you need?
Yes.
So for me, it's given me the language, and it's given my network the language as well.
Nice.
So therefore it's given me clients, you know?
Yeah, that's the final outcome that you really want, isn't it? That you get clients. I've noticed how you show up on social media now. It's really clear to me what you're doing and what you do and what you offer, and it really makes me smile. I'm like, yay, because you've got your branding, you've got the look and the feel, you've got your key messages that you put out there about the different elements. Maybe we should list them. Like, what are some of the elements that you elements? Where does that come from? What is it you do, Kat? Like, what are some of the offers that you have for people?
So I have a work with me one-to-one offer, which is called a play date, because I'm all about the fun, where I design with people. Very often that's like facilitators who love the facilitation, don't love being sat in a room on their own designing something because they get either tied up, worried that they're not good enough, or put it off for another day constantly. I think that's quite a lot of people do. So I've got that kind of like one-to-one, I'll do it with you now, and get them enthusiastic about it again. And then I've got products which are ready designed for people to buy and plug and play. Like literally buy it, put it in your workshop and run it.
Yes.
And I try and make those as easy as possible for facilitators. So I know there's loads of stuff on the internet and you can go and find things, but quite often I used to find that I'd find something on the internet and then I'd be like, okay, so how exactly does this work? How long is it going to take?
Yeah.
What do I need? And like, there's a lot of thinking that goes on after you've found something. So I try and design the products that are like, it gives you everything. So you've got all the answers and it's easy.
And is that in the toy box?
Yeah, that's the toy box. And then I recently launched a course teaching people how to make their own card decks, because having done some myself, I recognise that one, they're much more fun. People love having a deck of cards in their hands in workshops. And two, facilitators often have their own like tools and techniques and language, and being able to refine that and put it into an actual thing that then becomes a product for them, it's actually quite like satisfying. So yeah, teaching people how to do that and doing more of those myself as well.
Do you remember a conversation you and I had during COVID about that? I could see myself walking. I can see exactly where I was walking, and you were going, why don't you do a card deck, Kirst, for School of Facilitation? I was like, yeah, but I'd want someone like you to teach me or just do it for me. And I don't know all that. And then I was like, Kat, maybe that's what you should do. And you're like, no, it's too hard. It's hard enough doing my own, Kirsty. Why would I want to do that for anyone else? So I was delighted when I saw your new offer come out earlier this year. I was like, go, girl.
I guess it's a timing thing, isn't it? At that time, it was too hard.
Yeah.
When I chose to do it, it was the right time. And I had the headspace to do it.
You make a really good point, because whilst it might be a really good idea, you need to have the energy, you need to have the time, you need to have the headspace. So back to timing is everything. Timing is so important.
Yeah, but, and you also get a lot of people saying, you know what you should do? You should do this. And you've got, and you could do all those things, except you can't do all those things.
Exactly.
So you do have to be kind of like very like, thank you very much, but that's not right for me right now.
Yeah,
and it might be right, not be right forever, or it might pop back up.
Exactly. I'll just take that one, pop it in my pocket, and see how it comes back out.
Yeah.
Before we come to the quickfire questions, is there anything else you want to say about niching that can help our listeners today?
I think I've covered it. So I'm going to summarize it by saying, don't panic. Like, get there in your own time. Have lots of conversations with people, both to help you verbalize it, but also maybe find a way to get feedback from them to say, you know, even if you like wrote to 10 people and said, what is it that I do? Like actually being able to analyze that. And then, don't panic or don't worry that by niching you're ruling everything else out, because you're not.
Brilliant.
You're really not.
I love it. Okay, quick fire questions. So there's 4 questions. How have you invested in yourself or your business to support you in moving forward?
Well, there are 2 retreats I talked of earlier. There's continuing to go to SOF gatherings, obviously, and other networking events. I also go to something called Game Club, where we talk about a board game and then we analyse it and unpick it and talk about how we could use that in learning. That's run by a lady called Sarah. So like just stuff like that, kind of things that are about me, but also things that kind of expand the way I look at things.
I always remember you talking about going to creative mornings as well as a space for you to learn and
some
grow.
Brilliant online virtual sessions that very often I go to, like the arty ones, because that fuels me, but there's all sorts of businessy crossover ones as well. So
nice. So there's that piece about doing for yourself. Do you have a book that you like to recommend to people?
Yes. Profit First, which I know you've read. I would say that is one of my top books for business that people should read. Especially if you're at the start, because it helps you. It's much easier to set it up from the start than it is to have to unpick what you've got and reset everything.
I love
so I would say that book, and Game Storming, which I know is another favourite of yours.
Yeah.
Really good fun activities in there that are easy to kind of pick out and use with teams and things.
Absolutely. And I think the descriptions in Game Storming are really good. Like you can literally find they call it a Game Storming. You find the game you want to do because it meets your need. And then there's like 3 or 4 pages of like how to run it, basically. They even put the posters you need to draw, which obviously I love.
Yeah, it's really done in a way that makes it easy for you to pick up and use, which is great.
Who do you follow in social media land that you think other people should know about?
Ooh, Anna Maria Dorgo.
What does she do?
She is, how do I describe her? She is a facilitator who helps people grow communities as well. So she helped grow the Butter community and L&D Shakers, I think. So I'd say follow her. Saeed, can't remember his surname off the top of my head. He is fantastic at sharing. He's known as the facilitator.
I know.
He uses OBS and Stream Deck. I love it. Yeah, so he shows some really interesting ways to use tech in facilitation.
That he does.
To make it fun.
Yes.
So I would say they're 2 good people. Obviously, people will already be following you, and if they're not, why not? And Kirsten Holder, who also has a very different style to you, like an approach to facilitation and helping people on that side. So like it's a really nice balance of everything. Yeah.
And I think it's always good to follow lots of different types of people, because then you pick up different ways and different ideas. Yeah. Okay, final question. What advice would you give someone starting out in the world of learning, facilitation, training?
Build your network. So the trusted people you can go to when you're having a panic or a celebration. Like actually being able to go to someone and go, I won this piece of work. So I'd say like find some kind of, I call them business besties, kind of have a few of those around who you can share your woes and celebrations with. Read Profit First, so you set your business up like financially secure. Think about a niche, but don't force it.
Great words.
And ride the peaks and troughs.
Ride the peaks and troughs. I love it. Kat, thank you so much for the conversation today. It's been an utter pleasure. Good luck with whatever comes next, and go well.
Thank you very much.